Hello, it's Greg Otten here with MaritimeGardening.com. Today I'm going to talk about parsnips. I've made an interesting observation in my garden this season where a bunch of parsnips just sort of grew accidentally in places where I had not planted them. And so I thought I'd take you around and show you examples of this in my garden and some ideas I have about how to put that to use for next year's garden. So stay with me. So this is where I planted my parsnips this year, and I got decent sized parsnips, as you can see there. Most of these are, I'm just picking some at random here, I'm not picking out the champions. I'm sure there's some really big ones here, but on average these are bigger than the ones you get at the grocery store. And if you're, if you wait till late November, December to pick them, you're going to get some good ones. But anyway, this is a parsnip that grew in a place where I had not planted parsnips. I had some that I let go to seed. And the seeds just, I collected the seeds, but some of them just blew around, and I noticed that they just, earlier on in the season when I was pulling weeds, I'm like, that weed looks suspiciously parsnip-like, and I'd smell the little root coming out of it, and it had a parsnippy smell, so I just let it go and see what happened. So these are the two I just pulled out of my on-purpose parsnip garden. They're good size, right? Maybe 2 inches wide at the crown. And some of them in that bed where I planted them deliberately, might even be 3 inches wide, and the smaller ones might be 1 inch wide, but still that's good. My hand's about 4 inches wide, so I'm using that as a gauge. Here's one that just grew on its own without any help from me. A seed just landed there in the fall. It sat there all winter with the snow and the rain and the ice, and look at the size of this thing. It's just huge. I would say it's about 4 inches across at the crown. That's the biggest parsnip I've ever grown in my life, and I didn't even grow it. It just happened on its own. This is like a perfect example, and that's my hand span's about 8 inches. I think I can stretch 9 if I want, but so it's about 8 inches long and about 4 inches wide. It looks like a turnip, for God's sakes. Look at the contrast in size, and those are good sized parsnips. If you buy them, I buy them in the winter when I run out. Every year I have to buy a little bit less because I grow a little bit more every year. But look at the contrast in sizes. And that just grew on its own. It just landed there, sat there all winter, came on up on its own, and didn't get weeded by me, and just happened. So I'm just going to show a couple other spots where this happened. Here's another bed. The bed where I pulled that last one is about 10 feet away. So this one is the biggest one, and I'm going to leave this in the ground, and I'm going to let it go to seed for next year. This one might be almost 5 inches across at the crown. And I should have left that other big one in the ground too. I should have let it go to seed. But anyway, I picked it just to show you guys. Here's another spot where there's one growing in between my rows of kale. I never planted this one. It just grew there on its own. I like to always leave 2 things to go to seed. So this one, I moved the camera there, darn it. This one also had a good size, not quite as big as the first big one I picked there, but still quite large. So I think I elected to leave that one in the ground. Here's one that's just growing in my walkway. Just a seed just landed in all my walkways are wood chips over heavy, weeds and clay, and I put cardboard down and put wood chips down about 3-4 years ago. So let's just pull this guy out here. And it didn't have a perfect tapered shape because there's a really hard clay that's been there for a number of years. Here's another spot again in with the kale garden where I had this is relatively close where the seed plant had been growing, I got I think that one there I broke the top off. It had grown for whatever reason. That seed was very deep. So the crown is about 3 or 4 inches below the surface, and it's the roots right into all of my gardens are built over very dense clay soil. So this parsnip here had grown deep down into the clay soil. It wasn't easy to just, most things just pull out easily in my garden, but this one was pretty down deep. I had to use all my strength to get that out. But anyway, that's another good sized parsnip, right? That's, and maybe 3 inches across at the crown, maybe a little bit more. That's a nice parsnip, man. I ate those that night. They were delicious. And if you don't know anything about parsnips, you want to wait till you've had a good freeze, a good frost. The colder it gets, the better they taste. but make sure you get them out before the ground freezes. Anyway, so here I decided to see if I could recreate those conditions. I'm doing a bit of an experiment. I've got a nice bed. This one's quite deep and quite loose soil, so I should get, the more loose your soil is and the deeper it is, nice and loamy, you'll get beautiful big fat parsnips. So I'm just putting them down. These are seeds I saved. So I've got, the good thing about saving your seeds is you don't have to be judicious in how you sow them. You can just put tons of them down. I've got thousands of parsnip seeds. And if this doesn't work, if I don't see any action next April when they then I'll just plant some then. I got nothing to lose here, right? These gardens are just going to sit around all winter. So my idea is that I'll just recreate the conditions where the original ones grew. I'm going to just lay seeds on top of the soil, and then I'm going to put a couple inches of mulch over these, because what I expect happened, or what I theorize happened with the other ones, is they blew off the plant, and then they just landed on places where I had mulch, and they just fell down to the little cracks and crevasses in between the pieces of mulch material and just found their way down to the soil. So I'm kind of recreating that, but I'm doing it in a way that's, organized. Right? It's got some sort of geometry happening there, some rows and stuff. So just I'm just laying, and I don't know if this is going to work, so don't copy me, and if this doesn't work, don't blame me. This is an experiment. I'm just, I noticed something that just happened, and I want to put that to work, because the ones that grew by accident were better than the ones that grew on purpose. So yeah, I definitely want to see if I can recreate those conditions. What have I got to lose? This whole operation here, probably, I'm going to plant a garden that's about 12 feet long by about 3 feet wide, and that whole thing maybe took 10-15 minutes at the most. I've got seaweed as a mulch. You could use hay. There's lots of different things you could use. I like seaweed because it gets very dark and it attracts a lot of heat, and I can get it for free. About a 15-minute drive from my house. When I go to collect it, I get the dead seaweed that's just washed up on shore. I'm not harvesting anything. I'm not, destroying nature. This is just dead seaweed that's washed up on shore with all the garbage that's in with seaweed. I find it to be a fantastic mulch, and it gets dark in color when the sun hits it, so it becomes very good at attracting heat, which is important where I live here, because spring tends to come in very reluctantly. At least it's been my experience. In this part of the province, the unique microclimate where I live, it's a very lazy, reluctant spring. So anything I can do to move that along is good. So I just continued on with that process with the remainder of the garden. You can see how simple and easy it is. You just sow a line. I'm placing all of these rows about a hand span apart. So my rows are 3 feet long, and they're a spacing of about 8 inches apart. I find that's about right. It gives everything space to room to grow, but the plants are close enough that their foliage will block out the light from whatever might grow in between those rows. And in my opinion, I get good results for planting things like that, carrots, beets, and those sort of root vegetables. And they'll still have enough space to get the nutrients they need to grow well. You can see from the other parsnips I planted, they're 8 inches apart, and they're good size. Better than market, or restaurant quality parsnips. So that's good enough for me. So yeah, there's this. If this works, all my parsnips are planted for next year. There's nothing left to do. I'll just let it go. I won't bother next spring. This will just come up on its own, and just let it take care of itself. So let's see how it goes. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. Give it a try. If you've done this before, please let me know in the comment section. I'd be interested in hearing that. Till next time, get out there, get at it, have fun in your garden.